About working in CIS countries and perspectives of international banks there, we talked with Steven Fisher, country officer manager of Citibank in Ukraine. Now we are talking about perspectives of international banks in CIS countries. When we are talking about Ukraine, about Russian, can we tell that these markets are more perspective for international banks than Europe, than USA, because they are emerging?
Well, that's a difficult question, but in general, emerging markets continue to be of great interest to international banks. Most economists believe that 2/3 of future economic growth in the future will be from the emerging markets, and therefore, for international banks, emerging markets is the place to be.
Yeah. Emerging markets like CIS countries?
CIS is definitely very much emerging markets.
And why?
Why? Because there's very large growing populations, consumer demand, the need for investment in all different sectors. And you've heard about BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India and China. Well, Russia is one of them, and Ukraine is just the neighbor of Russia.
And when we are talking about banks in these countries, we are talking for customers, it's customers for credit, or it's investing in some project by bank?
It's both. Consumers want new products, they want new technology to deliver these products. Corporations need loans to further investment and create jobs, and of course, consequently, to pay more taxes, which are important as well. Therefore, there's opportunities in both the retail sector and the corporate sector.
And when we are talking about Russian and CIS countries, what sectors to invest is better? You tell retail and maybe other markets?
I think every sector is important, but each sector has its own dynamics and challenges and opportunities.
Now you presented in these countries in what way you're presenting, by what companies?
Well, there's in terms of banks, I would say most international banks are present in Russia, to a large extent in Ukraine, and also in Kazakhstan. Those are the three most important countries for international banking in the CIS.
When we are talking about Raiffeisen Bank, we know that some news was about clothing business in Russia. When we are talking about Citibank, bank ready to develop this market?
Well, I can't talk about Raiffeisen Bank. I believe they're still growing. Citibank is very committed to the CIS market, and we are very present with a very successful history in Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan.
How you comment that World Bank tells that these markets will grow in the future, but not that way they thought. By Ukraine will grow not for 2%, but only for 1%. You are ready to take this not very great statistic?
Well, that is the statistic for this year, but don't forget Ukraine has a lot of potential to grow. The agricultural sector, for example, has enormous potential, among other sectors. Banks like ours are here for the long term, and therefore 1 year of low economic growth does not mean the future economic growth. There's a long-term perspective.
But when we are talking about Citigroup, in Europe, what climate is now there?
Well, the West European economy is still a bit recessionary, so this year it's not very strong. But don't forget, the world economy goes in cycles. The emerging markets represents, as I said before, at least 2/3 of the future growth of the world economy, and therefore this is the place to be.
Yeah. So we are talking about CIS, but Europe, we know that some recession, but bank will not close their business.
No, I think Western Europe is very, very important to the world economy, and it represents a very important place for us to be as well.
When we talk about USA, Citibank is from USA, as
yes.
you know, and the biggest companies of Citigroup are presented in USA. Now, the economic of that country is not in very good position like everyone in the world. But your prognose, your thoughts about future of financial system, about bank system in USA, will we see some changes, positive or negative?
Well, I think we're seeing positive changes. I think there's been a lot of regulatory improvements. And with the advent of Basel III, which is strengthening the world banking system, I'm optimistic that the United States economy will continue to grow, that the international financial sector will strengthen, and that this will bring benefits to all of us.
But as you said, for a long term?
Of course, one must be optimistic talking about the long term. But we already see that today.
Emerging markets in priority for international banks, says Steven Fisher, country officer manager of Citibank in Ukraine. Thank you for watching us. It was Evgeny Bentsev, special for Dukascopy TV from Kiev.